So I'm going to give some explanation as to what you're supposed to be doing with this absolute dating lab. We did it here in class together. It is a very challenging level of content, so we're going to kind of work through it together so that you guys can be successful at completing this activity on your own. So we're going to start by taking a look at these bags of popcorn. If you click where it says click here on your lab sheet, it will bring you to a slideshow and it will show you these 4 different bags of popcorn. Okay, the first thing I need you to do is to start by counting all the popped and unpopped kernels in each bag. And then I need you to write next to each bag the number of popped kernels and the number of unpopped kernels. No matter what, you should have a total of 40 kernels in each bag. Now that could be 20 and 20, that could be 30 and 10. It could be in different increments, but it has to add up to 40. So what you're going to do now is you're going to take your time and you are going to count all bags for popped and unpopped and record it on a sheet of paper. I'll give you a moment to pause the video and to go ahead and count each bag now. When you're finished counting each bag, resume the video for more instructions. Okay. If you've resumed the video, that means you've counted the amount of unpopped and popped kernels in each bag. Let's start by reviewing those answers so we know we got the same answers. If you look at bag A, you should have counted 20 popped kernels and 20 unpopped kernels. If you look at bag B, you should have found there's 35 popped and 5 unpopped. If you look at bag C, you should have found 0 are popped and 40 are unpopped. And if you look at bag D, you should have found that 30 are popped and 10 are unpopped. Make sure your answers match mine. All right, now that we've added up each bag, we are going to rank the bags in order from youngest to oldest. Now, when you're doing this, think about what a bag of popcorn looks like before it goes into the microwave. You're going to see all the kernels not popped. That is your youngest bag of popcorn. As it cooks for several minutes in the microwave, it will pop more kernels, which is your older bag of popcorn. So rank the 4 bags in order from youngest to oldest on your lab sheet using the Google Draw that's attached. Rank them from youngest to oldest, and then on question number 1, explain in PQPA why you ranked them the way you did from youngest to oldest. Please pause the video and complete question 1 and the ranking of youngest to oldest on your own now. When you have finished this, resume the video for further instructions. Okay, assuming you've counted each single bag of popcorn, we are going to take a look at what we got as our answer. And we are going to transfer our information over to our data table. So I'm going to have to come out of full screen so I can type in here with you guys. But let's start by counting the number of unpopped in bag C. So once you looked at bag C, you hopefully should have found that 40 were unpopped and 0 were popped. That's for bag C. When you looked at bag A, hopefully you found that 20 are unpopped and 20 are popped. When you look at bag D, hopefully you found 10 are unpopped and 30 are popped. And finally, bag D, you should have found, bag B as in boy, you should have found 35 are unpopped and 5 are popped. Oop, I apologize, I messed that up. 5 and 35. I switched those, my apologies. So 5 are unpopped and 35 are popped. Now we have to take a look at our percentage. Our whole that we're looking at is 40 kernels. Okay, that's our whole. So that is 100%. 40 out of 40 is our 100%. We want to know the percentage of unpopped and the percentage of popped. No matter what, these two columns right here must add up to equal 100%, or the whole, which is 40 kernels. So if you look right here, we have 40 that are unpopped out of 40. What percentage would 40 out of 40 be? Hopefully, you figured out it should be 100%. Because these two columns have to add up to 100, that makes this column must be 0 to make sure it adds up to 100. Let's do the next one. Unpopped is 20 out of 40. If you simplify 20 out of 40 down, you should get 50%. Because they have to equal 100, you have 50 here. You know you have to have 50 here, so it adds up to 100. Then take a look at bag D. You have 10 unpopped. So 10 out of 40 are unpopped. Okay? That is 25%. Because they have to equal 100, you know this one has to be 75%. Okay? And the last one, if you look over here, this one is the most challenging one to identify, but it's going to be half. If you've noticed right here, there's a trend. 100 is cut in half to 50. 50 is cut in half to 25. Now 25 is going to be cut in half, and 25 cut in half is 12.5%. Again, take 100 and subtract 12.5, and that will get you what you're left with, which is 87.5%. All of these percentages added together equal 100%, which in this case, our 100% is 40 out of 40. Now we have to identify the ratio, okay? So you're going to be looking at unpopped to popped. So we have 40 unpopped and 0 popped. So our ratio is 40 to 0. You must simplify your ratios down according to the directions up here. 40 to 0 is actually in simplest form, so we leave it as is. Moving on to the next one, we have 20 unpopped and 20 popped. So our ratio becomes 20 to 20. Now you can simplify that down by taking a 10 out of each, which would leave you with 1 to 1. So then you can take away the 20 to 20. And then this one, you have 10 unpopped and 30 popped. So you have 10 to 30. We must simplify it down. You can take a 10 out of each, which leaves you 1 to 3. All we need to keep is our final answer. And then last but not least, we have unpopped 5, popped 35. So 5 to 35. A 5 can come out of each of those to make it 1 and 7. You only need to keep the simplest form, so you can delete that first ratio. And now your table is complete all but the first column, which we're going to come back to. Okay, so make sure your table is filled in now. Once your table has been completely filled in on your lab sheet, you may resume the video. Okay, assuming that you have your lab sheet table completed, we're going to move on and talk about more of the actual terms that we're going to be using here. So what I need you to understand is that all atoms or elements have molecules. When you put them under a microscope, you're going to see electrons, protons, and neutrons. Okay? Elements have protons, which are positive, neutrons, which are a neutral charge, which means they're not positive and they're not negative, and electrons, which are negative charges. When the same element, like carbon, has a different number of neutrons, they call it an isotope. And we're going to hear that fancy word several times, isotope. So these three pictures down here are all isotopes, because if you notice, with carbon-12, we have 6 neutrons. But with carbon-13, we have 7 neutrons. But with carbon-14, we have 8 neutrons. So because the number of neutrons we have each time changes, they are known as isotopes. They are all the element carbon, however, they have a different number of neutrons, which makes them isotopes. Okay? All right. We are going to read page 108 in your textbook. I'm going to pause the video now and allow you to read page 108. Okay? I want you to read it first on your own, and then you will go to the part 2 video, and you will continue listening to the lecture. So read page 108 on your own and then go to video 2 for more information.